Safeties now. That's the expression. Safety now. Do it now on the Podcast Daily.
0 days since a workplace accident.
Did it. It's Bill Landis and Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward, and we are back in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. A Woody Wednesday, perhaps, to talk about a group that I think, Bill, they're going to be pretty good.
I think they're going to be all right. Those top two guys are pretty impressive, Caleb Downs and Lathan Ransom. And I feel pretty good about the depth. We talked to Malik Hartford as well. I feel like he's in a better place to sort of mentally understanding the defense. So you like the top three. We didn't talk with Jalen McClain or Jaden Bonsu or Keenan Nelson. I wish we could have talked to
Really wanted to.
Yeah. But like Matt Guerrieri seems like he feels okay about how that's progressing. So they're putting a lot on the plate of everyone in the room, but being, I think, intentional about doing it for the guys behind the starters. I think maybe a little bit of like a sink or swim mentality to see what they can handle at this point. But it seems like they've kind of responded well. So it's a position group that's awesome at the top, obviously. But I feel pretty good about it kind of in totality. I think they got a good group.
Yeah, I don't think you look at that group and have worries or concerns. I mean, we watched Jaden Bonsu in the spring really kind of elevate and get a lot of first-team reps and doing that stuff when Lathan Ransom was taking it easy. And I'm a little surprised that maybe he wasn't out here or that he hasn't been more in this conversation. But it's also, he's a different type of safety than these other guys are. He's a more maybe physical, less about being the free-ranging, safe, center fielder type. And in this defense, I think right now they kind of need that guy as opposed to the come up and hit you in the box type. So one guy whose name I heard a couple times tonight we have not talked about at all is Leroy Roker, who, I asked Matt Guerrieri, like, give me a little insight into Leroy Roker. And he said you should see the interception he had today. So I imagine we'll see that on social media at some point. But
did you get who threw it? Or?
I did not.
Lathan Ransom brought up, hey, Roke was out there. He had a great interception. And then he was asked, well, who threw it? And Lathan's like, I'm a senior, bud. Nice try.
But Guerrieri said that he thinks that Leroy Roker may be the second most athletic in that group behind Caleb Downs. Like just purely freaky athleticism, which when you watch Leroy Roker in high school came from he had one offer when Ohio State offered him, and that was from Iowa. And at the time I was like, that's a good offer. Like if Iowa wants you, that's good.
Especially DB.
Right, because you're talking 3 years from now, this is a kid who's going to be drafted out of Iowa and be like, where the hell did he come from? Yeah. So just a name to maybe put in the back pocket for now, but obviously all the conversation is going to be about Caleb Downs and Lathan Ransom because they are the two best safety tandem in the country.
I think Matt Guerrieri was asked to start off with 5 or 6 straight questions about Caleb Downs. Right?
And that's why I wanted to be like, Matt, I think I already know that those two are good. Like, can we get a breakdown of where a healthy Malik Hartford fits into this mix? Like what you think for Jalen McClain, Jaden Bonsu, how they fit into this. And then I was like, can you also just tell Jim Knowles to relax? Like, don't you feel pretty good about the safety depth? And you're like, well, no, that's just my job. So I didn't get any friction there. They seem to agree that they can continue to elevate the play for that next wave. There's certainly going to be a gap between Caleb Downs and Lathan Ransom. That's pretty much impossible. Any program that had those two would be dealing with the same situation. But I think Matt Guerrieri feels good about it, Bill. You mentioned that to start, but I don't know that they are totally satisfied because a lot of this is still, whether that's Roker, whether that's McClain, whether that's Hartford, even to some extent, it's still a bet on potential.
Yeah.
And not something that's been proven yet.
There's not a whole lot of game snaps there. I mean, there are obviously none for Jalen McClain and none for Jaden Bonsu. They didn't play last year. And Malik Hartford's season was odd, I think, when it comes to safety play specifically. He played a decent amount on special teams. But yeah, that's the thing, right? Especially on a team that is so experienced, it tends to stick out a little more. Like when you get to a certain point in your room, like, boy, none of these guys have played. Like I understand why that would be concerning for Jim Knowles and why I think Matt Guerrieri does have a heightened focus on it too to try to get it better. I just see the talent, like the raw talent in the room. And then you throw in Leroy Roker, who's was he the second most athletic guy in the room behind? Yeah, so you like the pieces. I totally get being concerned about the experience part of it, but hopefully the first couple games of this season can help alleviate some of that and get those guys some good run.
The high school comparison for Roker from people in this building was Malik Hooker, so like that's
no pressure, kid.
It's a pretty
just behind Caleb Downs and living up to a first round.
Just as far as his pure athleticism and what he can bring, that's a lot of expectation.
Yeah,
boy, that is a lot of pressure. But
Guerrieri doesn't seem to have any problem handling this room, though, which for a guy who's back for the first time, as a position coach at Ohio State, like as opposed to being an assistant position coach a couple of years ago, like this is a guy that really seems to get it.
He's a former coordinator, right?
He's a Big Ten coordinator last year.
And an ACC coordinator before he came in.
The ACC's not real football.
And I think when we mentioned this when he came back, certainly the familiarity piece with Jim Knowles and the defense, like that, there's not a big learning curve. Matt Guerrieri's had important roles at other big, not programs as big as Ohio State, of course, but he's worked with Jim Knowles. He's worked in the system. He's worked elsewhere. He's proven himself as a recruiter, and he's certainly built some relationships that seem to carry the voice throughout his meeting room. And it doesn't hurt that he has Caleb Downs and Lathan Ransom in there to set the tone as well. I think it's interesting. We've had several shows. One was like, hey, guys, remember, Emeka Egbuka, he's on this team. He's really good. You should probably stop overlooking him. Not you specifically, America, not you watching. I know you appreciate
back there.
It's that one over there. And this one over here who doesn't appreciate Cody Simon.
But what you're saying...
And then we bring that along. And then there's this other guy.
That guy who's forgetting about Lathan Ransom.
He's smirking right now. And it's just uncalled for. Lathan Ransom is on this team. And Lathan Ransom himself is like, I feel a little underappreciated. Now, he was asked about it, and he said, yes, I feel like I should probably be getting more attention. He didn't just say it out of nowhere.
He sat down and said, start talking about it.
But he said, I got a chip on my shoulder. I've always had a chip on my shoulder. And the attention on Caleb Downs is absolutely deserved. But Lathan could probably get a little bit more.
I think he's probably never gotten his due, right? Even when he kind of emerged as a freshman and played more than anyone was expecting him to, at a certain point, and like very quickly, that seemed to just sort of get taken for granted. And I think that is a sign of respect to the player, I think, when you do that. Because if he was bad, I promise you we'd be talking about him.
He was on his way to being Jordan Hancock in 2020 before Jordan Hancock got here. Yeah. And then they moved him back to the deep safety, where you're like, is that where he's best? Because as a true freshman in 2020, he looked really comfortable in the slot.
He did, yeah. And I think they still ask him to do some of that. And depending on what they do with the personnel stuff and when Jordan Hancock might come off the field with 3 linebackers or whatever, or 5 defensive linemen, whatever it is they do, I think Lathan Ransom will do that. And it's nice to have that skill set out there. Caleb Downs could do that too. I think Caleb Downs,
Stop talking about Caleb Downs.
He can play anywhere on the field. He's really good, man. What am I supposed to do? They're both good. But I think Lathan Ransom, they have 2 of the, I don't know,
best
12 best safeties in the country.
The
on
best
defense.
safety tandem.
Yeah, I would think so.
Without question.
I can't. I don't know.
I think the best thing,
nobody would trade.
Yeah, I wouldn't trade him.
I think the best part about having those 2 guys is what you guys already brought up, is that it allows Matt Guerrieri and Jim Knowles and the rest of the coaching staff to focus on the depth behind them and teaching those guys, because you have 2 coaches on the field with Ransom and Downs that you don't have to do a lot of the on-field crap with. Like you can do the work with, the extra work after. You can do all of the additional study that you do in the film room, fine. But when you're out here, you don't have to worry about those guys being in the wrong spot or not knowing their assignment. So that is a huge benefit when you have 4 or 5 guys behind them that have not played.
Yeah, and Lathan said he feels like he and Caleb are like pretty connected now, right? Like they have a nice simpatico, if you will.
They seem to, according to both of them, that they approach the game the same way. They understand it. They see it the same way from that safety position. It allows something that we've heard Ohio State talk about a lot, that they don't necessarily want the bandit and the adjuster to be different. They'd like to be able to roll depending on, like, just let them go out there and not give anything away formationally, not tip anything in terms of scheme. And I do think that Lathan and Caleb Downs provide that. It's wild because we'd always hear stories about Lathan's work ethic and how much film he would study and his ability to process that information. And Matt Guerrieri is telling this story that, like, it sounds like hyperbole to me. That's like, I would put on the coach's tape and it would have just like the down and distance and not the play call. And like Caleb Downs would already know what it was from last year's Ohio State tape. I'm like, what is this?
McVay style?
What is it? What?
I think he's talking about from last year's Alabama. That's why.
No, he was talking about they putting on Ohio State stuff because they weren't watching Alabama tape.
I thought he meant Ohio State tape too.
He said they were watching every rep of Caleb's from a year ago. Oh. And so they didn't have the play call on it because it was Alabama's tape.
All right.
So they did. That's why they didn't have the play call on it. So
the recall remains.
But the recall remains impressive.
Because Caleb also was asked about that and made it sound himself as if he was talking about watching Ohio State's
he probably
defense.
did that later. Those two
Because
are
he's a freak.
I think both can be
Caleb
true.
and Lathan are probably finishing each other's sandwiches.
Sandwiches, yeah.
So, just-
That's true.
Matt Guerrieri said, I think the direct quote was that Caleb Downs' football intelligence is unmatched. Is that what he said?
Well, yes, he did.
Yeah.
And that's, if I interpreted the story wrong, my apologies. But those were the questions that were then taken from Matt Guerrieri's table to Caleb Downs. And he was just like, yeah, I mean, it was like, it was suggested, do you have a photographic memory? And he was like, no, I just sort of understand football and I know what's happening out there and I can remember.
Yeah, that's the way
Anyway,
That's how memories work.
that's how good football players are. I mean, again, we can pull up tape from 2019 and Ryan Day will tell you what the play call was before the play happened.
Stretching to the boundary.
That was 2021, Bill.
you don't think they ran stretch in 2019?
No.
I do. I think it just worked better.
Yeah.
Why, though? Is it because the players were better?
J.K. Dobbins and Wyatt Davis and Josh Myers. And
So,
Johnny
yes,
Jackson.
because the players are better. But anyway, no. The point is, Caleb Downs is really good. Lathan Ransom's really good. Stop ignoring Lathan Ransom.
So, in trying to get more insight from Matt Guerrieri on that depth and what the pecking order would be, he proved he is a veteran coach because he just sidestepped around that and was like, well, we don't have bandits and adjusters, so there's not really a depth chart, and we're just bringing along Malik and we're bringing along Jalen McClain. And
Yeah.
It's pretty clear that the top four are the two guys who we're not going to talk about anymore, and Jalen McClain and Malik Hartford. It's
think
pretty
so.
clear.
That was.
I
Yeah.
had
But
I had to provoke Matt Guerrieri into talking about Jaden Bonsu because
Yes.
nobody else asked about it.
But I think the only reason I bring it up that way is because I think, Bill worked on a depth chart for this week. And it's like, if those positions are the same and they're interchangeable, we would reasonably know pretty soon by next Saturday who the third one in line is. Because I don't know that they're just going to pull both. Well, maybe they will. After 3 drives, you're just going to take Caleb Downs off the field and put one guy in, maybe.
He's got to get ready to play running back.
That's true. We didn't even get to that yet, but we'll get to that part later. But I would think if that's their approach, then they would maybe want to decide on 3 versus 4 is the only reason I bring it up that way.
Yeah, I don't know. Malik Hartford also said that there's no difference. He said he's just been playing both. So I think it's great if they are. I think that in a world where they're not going to be super multiple up front, but still want to maintain multiplicity in disguise, having less defined roles or easily discernible roles, I guess, for the safeties is probably the way you do it, right? So, and Lathan Ransom and Caleb Downs can definitely handle it. So if the young guys are handling that too, then that opens up a world of possibilities for them.
I liked Malik Hartford saying, yeah, it's playing left or right. Like, what happened to the really fun names? That's just sides of the field. That's
I didn't
too
like
easy.
adjusters. So
That's too easy.
I also don't like left and right though. You got to be cooler than that. Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody after like a deadly animal,
Yeah.
like a mongoose.
The mongoose and the asp. Ooh, nice asp. I like that guy. He's a nice asp out there.
It's
Asp.
well, if we're gonna use L and R, we'll just have like the lion and the rhino. How about
like
that?
that.
Let's do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
We did it.
Caleb Downs said he was asked a lot, including by me. So if you got to decide, what would it look like? Because it was presented to him as, did you take that seriously when Ryan Day said that you could play running back? And he's like, oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, check. When was the last time you got a rep at running back? That was the summer. Didn't happen in training camp. And then I said,
Training camp's not over.
if it was up to you, what would it look like? He said, it's not a full-time thing, obviously. He's a safety. He wants to play defense. But he set a number that I thought was higher than I
It's pretty
anticipated,
high.
which was 10 snaps a game on offense. And I don't think that's going to
I think
happen.
that's 9 too many.
But he does want it. And he's not concerned personally about the risk of injury, while everyone else
I'm just
is.
thinking about Travion Henderson running the Wildcat with Quinshawn Judkins and Caleb Downs next to him.
Okay?
Yep.
That's all I'm thinking about now.
Will Howard at receiver.
Yes.
In 13 personnel?
Will Howard is playing tight end. He's
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
He's
That's
big
gonna
enough.
be beautiful.
Yeah.
Look, the kid is really, really good and talented enough to do it. I've said it multiple times. He would have been an all-SEC type running back if he went to college to play running back. You don't need to play him at running back. So unless
How's he going to win the Heisman
unless you're
without
doing
an
it
offensive
for the
touchdown?
Heisman,
12 interceptions.
unless you're doing it for the Heisman, don't do it.
Yeah, it just makes me nervous. I don't. I'll be excited if they do it.
Let me tell you, if we're heading into the post-Oregon game and Ohio State goes out to Eugene and wins that game comfortably and they're 6-0.
Like that Caleb Downs candle.
And then you start to be like, hey, now we're cooking with gas here. Let's find a way to do some things to get people talking about, Caleb a little bit more nationally. Yeah. Then fine. But if you're just going through the first half of the season,
that's a talent equated game, Berm. You have to empty the chamber, and if Caleb Downs is a good enough weapon, you got to use him.
What better stage to do it? Big stage, big game.
That's what I'm saying. Thanks for joining this bandwagon that I'm driving.
We've landed on Caleb Downs is going to score against Oregon.
I'm saying, if you're going to do it, do it.
Welcome to Bold Predictions.
If you're going to do it then. Don't waste that on Western Michigan.
Well, I'm not saying Western Michigan. I'm saying Oregon.
You didn't
cook it up.
Now we're all on the same
What if
page.
he does both? Western Michigan and Oregon?
He's going to return a punt against Western Michigan.
Oof. Okay.
Did anybody ask him about punt returning?
Yes.
Because I wasn't over there the whole time.
It doesn't sound like he's going to return punts for this team. He said he has caught punts throughout camp, but that if Ohio State wants somebody else to be the punt returner, he is fully supportive of that, and he wishes them good luck. And the way he said it
sounds dismissive.
Made me think that it wasn't going to happen, that he wasn't going to return punt. He said it like he's so polite, but it was like kind of raw, I felt like. He wanted to return punts, and I don't think he's going to get to.
Like it still hurts.
Yeah, inside.
If you had to choose one or the other, returning punts or running back, what would you choose for him?
Returning punts.
Yeah, me too. He returned one for a touchdown last year, right?
Yes,
against the FCS team.
It was like 93 yards.
Tennessee
It wasn't one of them 46-yard punt returns.
Yeah, no, it was legit. It
was like 93. Yeah. He ran backwards and then did a somersault without touching.
Then he solved world hunger and spiked the football.
Yeah.
Is that good?
I'm all for it. The bottom line, we were joking, this is we don't normally do one position group for an entire episode of the podcast daily.
Speak for yourself. Bill and I did it all summer.
I've never done this, so I don't know how you guys keep talking about it. What other stuff did we see or hear from post-practice on Tuesday night? I saw Donovan Jackson. There's been some questions about his medicals.
It's very much alive.
He was wearing cleats. He was wearing gloves. He was wearing pads.
He's checking a lot of boxes.
I walked over and I said, "Hey, how you doing?" And he said, "I don't know what you're talking about." And then kept walking and said, "See you next Saturday." So
we were told by multiple different people that it was not something to be concerned about. Things happened during training camp. He was still, even when we were out here before, he was still in uniform. The illness was going through others. I don't think that's why he may have missed some time a week ago. But Donovan Jackson is going to play. He is good to go. A player that we did talk to on Tuesday night who had been in and out of the lineup, G. Scott, has got a cast on his right hand, but probably not ideal for catching a football. But he's still in full pads.
Probably pretty good to punch somebody in the
still
face.
Still going through it. If you're going to block, you can do it that way.
Yeah.
We talked to Cody Simon for a considerable amount of time on Tuesday night as the block O. Mm-hmm. It's hard to argue when you talk to Cody Simon that he's not the right guy to represent the program in that way.
He's a great representative of the program. Berm went over and said, "Cody, did you know what I wrote about you?"
I did not say that. I said,
"Let me read." And he pulled out his phone and he was like,
that didn't happen either.
He's going to be president."
And he said,
and then he asked him what his platform was going to be.
I said, "Is there any chance that you have a political future after football?" And he brusquely said no.
I mean, he said he doesn't like being the center of attention.
He said he doesn't want to be in politics because politics is too dirty, is what he said.
Yeah.
So I guess I was wrong.
I said, this is the second time this week, Cody, that he has brought this up, and I'm sorry that you're having to talk politics right now.
I said, hey, a couple years ago I did a class superlative story on your class, and he said, oh, no. So he said, what did you put for me? I said, most likely to be president. And he didn't seem to want the honor.
Yeah, but he does want to be the
type of person we need to be president.
Oh.
The guy that doesn't want to be is the person who should be.
Like The Rock.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like The Rock.
The final boss.
The Italian Rock. The Italian stallion. Rock Balboa. We are losing the plot.
The final boss is going to go in a direction. I just thought I could give it maybe 5 more seconds and Berm would do something that would be
not going to do it.
Great for America. Instead, we're just going to bring it to an end right here. This has been the Podcast Daily. It is a Woody Wednesday. We're going to be back in this building later on today.
Is that a twofer, Woody Wednesday? We're going to have a twofer?
Yeah, we're going to have we just,
It's a double Wednesday.
I brought a blanket and a pillow. I'm going to hang out in here all day, take a little nap, and then talk to the defensive line and Larry Johnson later on Wednesday night. So we'll have, I don't know if should we go straight to Snappy J's, or save that for the daily on Thursday?
Oh, no, we're going straight to Snappy J's.
We're going straight to Snappy Days. All right. So
too many guys to talk to. Too many things.
All right, Berm has called it. That is the plan.
Opportunities.
Snap judgments with the defensive line. That will be later today. We'll figure out what is left to talk about on the podcast Thursday. This is Bill Anderson, Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you later.